The termination email was sent at 9:07 a.m., the same minute the office lights finished warming the marble lobby with a pale daytime glow, and in that instant, a life that had been balancing on thin patience finally tipped. People often think disasters arrive with noise and drama, but this one came quietly, with a subject line that felt heavier than thunder and a silence that pressed into the chest. It was the kind of morning that looks ordinary to everyone else and unforgettable to the one person it chooses. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us we are all more than our worst moments, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Spark. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Ethan Morales had already been late twice that month, late in a way that did not come from laziness or carelessness, but from the fragile math of single parenthood. He was a 36-year-old data analyst with tired eyes and a posture shaped by responsibility, the kind of man who measured time in bus schedules and school bells rather than clocks. His mornings began before sunrise in a small apartment washed in grey daylight, where the windows faced a brick wall and the kitchen smelled faintly of instant coffee. He moved quietly to avoid waking his daughter, Sophia, whose breathing at dawn sounded like a promise he could not break. Sophia was 8 and lived with asthma severe enough to turn ordinary mornings into emergencies. On the days she wheezed, Ethan counted breaths and waited for medicine to work while watching the clock betray him. The company Ethan worked for, Larkspur Solutions, prided itself on efficiency and punctuality. It was run by Adrian Wolf, a 44-year-old CEO known for discipline and results. Adrian believed that systems worked when people did. His days were ruled by calendars and glass-walled meetings bathed in daylight, his success built on the idea that time respected those who respected it back. To him, tardiness was a sign of disorder, a crack in the foundation that could spread. He did not know Ethan. He knew only a pattern on a report that crossed his desk, and the decision felt clean and justified. Ethan read the email at his desk as sunlight poured through the office windows, making the polished floors gleam. Around him, co-workers typed and laughed softly, unaware that his world had narrowed to a few lines of formal language. He packed his things slowly, placing a photo of Sophia back into his bag with care, as if it were fragile glass. The walk out of the building felt longer than the years he had worked there. Outside, the city hummed under clear skies, people moving with purpose, and Ethan stood still for a moment, breathing in a day that suddenly belonged to uncertainty. By early afternoon he was back in his apartment, the light now softer, sitting at the kitchen table with bills spread out like a map of fear. Rent, medication, school supplies, the numbers did not bend to hope. He closed his eyes and allowed himself a brief moment of despair, the kind that comes when responsibility outweighs strength. Then he stood up because Sophia would be home soon, and despair was a luxury he could not afford. What Adrian Wolf did not see was what happened after office hours, when the city's sharp edges softened under late-day sun. Every evening, Ethan volunteered at a community learning center 2 blocks from his apartment. It was a bright, aging building filled with daylight, and the sound of children who needed more than homework help. Many of them came from homes stretched thin by circumstance, and Ethan saw himself in their parents' tired smiles. He helped with math, reading, and patience. He stayed because the center provided a quiet room where Sophia could sit safely if her breathing worsened, because the staff knew how to help her, because kindness there felt practical and real. Ethan never advertised this part of his life. He did not believe good deeds needed witnesses. He believed they needed consistency. The learning center had once helped him when he first became a single father, and he had returned the favor the only way he could, with time and effort offered in daylight hours when the world still felt possible. Adrian's life followed a different rhythm. His days ended later, often with walks through the city to clear his mind. On one such evening, as the sun dipped but still lit the streets in honest color, he passed the learning center. He noticed movement inside, Children gathered around tables, an adult leaning down with focused care. Something about the scene slowed him. Perhaps it was the way the man listened, or the way a small girl nearby used an inhaler with practiced calm. Adrian paused without knowing why. Over the next week, his evening walks brought him past the same building at the same time. Each time the same man was there, steady and unassuming, helping children who did not look like they had many options. Adrian asked a staff member about the volunteer, and the answer surprised him. The man had been fired recently, the staff member said, but he never missed a day here. He showed up early, stayed late, and asked for nothing. The name Ethan Morales landed heavily in Adrian's mind. He remembered the report, the email, the neat justification. The contrast unsettled him. In the bright, data-driven world Adrian controlled, people were variables. Here, under simple daylight and peeling paint, a person was a presence. Adrian began to watch more closely, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. He saw Ethan arrive carrying a backpack that held both work papers and a child's inhaler. He saw Sophia do her homework at a corner table, sunlight catching in her hair. He saw Ethan's attention split, and yet somehow whole, his patience deepened by struggle. Adrian recognized a discipline different from his own, one forged not by ambition but by care. The realization did not arrive all at once. It built slowly, like pressure, until it demanded action. Adrian reviewed Ethan's file again, this time with context. The tardiness was there, yes, but so were years of strong performance. There were no complaints, only quiet reliability. Adrian felt the uncomfortable truth settle in. He had enforced a rule without understanding the human cost. Ethan, meanwhile, continued to search for work during the day. Rejections arrived politely, bathed in the same daylight that made hope feel fragile. He kept his routine because routine kept fear at bay. Every afternoon, he walked Sophia home from school. Every evening, he went to the center. He taught children to divide fractions and, without realizing it, taught himself resilience. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the center's windows in long rectangles, Adrian stepped inside. He did not announce himself. He observed. He saw the way children leaned toward Ethan, the way the room felt steadier with him in it. Adrian waited until the session ended, until the noise faded and the day's work was done. He introduced himself quietly, without titles, without authority, and explained why he was there. Ethan listened with the guarded politeness of someone who had learned not to expect fairness. He did not plead. He did not accuse. He spoke simply about his mornings, his daughter, and the narrow margins of his life. The honesty of it carried more weight than anger ever could. Adrian left the center changed. The city outside looked different, brighter in a way that felt deserved rather than assumed. He returned to his office the next morning and made decisions that surprised his board. He ordered a review of attendance policies with flexibility for caregivers. He created a support program for employees with families facing medical challenges. And he reached out to Ethan with an offer that was not framed as charity but as respect. A role with adjusted hours, remote options, and a raise that acknowledged the value of character as much as skill. Ethan accepted because survival demanded it, but also because hope had returned quietly, the way it does when daylight stretches a little longer. The first day back at Larkspur Solutions felt different. The building was the same, the floors still gleamed, but something invisible had shifted. Ethan worked with a focus sharpened by gratitude, not obligation. His mornings were still careful, but now they were possible. Weeks passed, and the changes at the company began to ripple outward. Productivity did not fall as critics feared. It rose, loyalty deepened, people felt seen. Adrian watched this transformation with a humility he had not practiced before.